Hello people, we are Tottenham TV. We are back with our end of term report. It is just over a quarter of the season gone, and I thought it was a good opportunity for us to take stock, have a look at the players, how they've been this season, and we've given them all a report card.
So who's going to be having a happy parents' evening, and who's going to be grounded for the next month?
Exactly. Who's going to be on detention after this, and who is getting A-star reviews. But we're going to go through player by player and give them each a report card. And we're going to start off with our goalkeeper, Vicario. And we've given him a B in his end-of-term report, which, look, I think he's had a fairly good season so far. A lot of the things that have been batted his way in terms of coming for crosses and corners and stuff like that, I think it has got better, but there are still frailties there. But I do feel like he's moving in a upwards trajectory. I think there are some games where he looks quite confident from his corners and his crossing, but there are some times where he is found wanting still.
I think it's been pretty good. In fact, you know, because Spurs have faced the least shots on target, he's actually had a lot less saves to make than maybe he did last season. Maybe less of those big saves that stick in your mind from last season where he bailed us out. I think he's having to have bailed us out a lot less, but there are some big moments where maybe if he made a big save, we could have come away with more points. But I don't think that's a big criticism on him. The criticism from crosses, I understand, but yeah, I was actually looking at some of the stats from him this season, and when it comes to percentage of crosses stopped, he's third in the league. So he's actually not as bad as maybe people were giving credit for crosses. But I think in general, it's actually been a fairly quiet season because most goals we can see, they're like tap-ins from the opposition, nothing you can do about them. So I think in general, he's been pretty good.
Yeah. So Big Vic gets a B. In terms of Fraser Forster, he gets a D. He's only played in 3 games this season: Coventry, AZ Alkmaar and Galatasaray. Against Coventry, it was a fairly poor display. Got to say that. We were all, absolutely horrified and terrified every time the ball got close to him. Alkmaar was definitely a good performance. And then Galatasaray, I think that you saw the good and the bad in there from Fraser Forster. So, look, we all know his time at Tottenham's coming to an end. He's not going to get his contract renewed. We won't see him past this season. But in terms of what we're trying to do, the football we're trying to implement, he's just not the guy.
Yeah, I think by and large, when he's been on the pitch, he definitely leaves you a bit scared when the ball's coming towards him, for sure. Obviously, some fans will point to some big saves he's made. Galatasaray, he made some poor errors, but he also made some big saves. Coventry, poor errors as well, but also some big saves to keep us in that tie. True. And then RZ, he did play quite well in that game, so give him credit. But I think if you watch him on the pitch for 90 minutes, you can see he struggles to keep up with what we want to do. His playing out the back is pretty bad, and as well when he comes for crosses, I think I can already remember at least twice that he's dropped some clangers when he's come for crosses already and nearly cost us goals. And as well, he sometimes makes bad decisions when he's rushing out of his goal. And I think Ben Davies had to save his skin against Coventry when he rushed out, and Davies had to stop an open goal. So I think he definitely needs upgrading for sure.
Pedro Porro, we are giving him a C grade. I did expect more from Pedro so far this season. Definitely more goal contribution, because we know he's got that in his locker, particularly with the role that he has in the team. He's got 1 goal, which was on the first game of the season, and then 1 assist, which came from a corner in the last game of this so far. So, yeah, I do expect more from him going forward. I've been quite let down in that sense. And defensively, I feel like a lot has got past him this year as well. So I don't think it's been the greatest season from Pedro so far.
I think it's been okay, but you just get that feeling he's got a couple more gears to go up, Porro, especially on the ball with his ability. I still think you see flashes of it. I still think, by and large in games, he has been quite creative, but not to the level maybe at times he was last season. I think defensively, I don't think there's been a massive drop-off, but also those back post goals, which, a lot of them are coming from his area, and that's just something we've got to sort out. It might be a structural thing, but it does seem to be coming from his area, and he needs to be, we need to have a word with Andrew, whatever, why that keeps happening. But it's not been as good as he was last season so far.
Jed Spence up next. We're also going to give him a C grade. Hasn't played much football this season. Obviously, he's been fighting those injuries, but 45 minutes against Manchester United, 45 minutes against Coventry. We won't be in the Carabao Cup if it wasn't for him, getting that last gasp goal to level the game up in the last few minutes. And then second half against Manchester United, I thought he had a good game as well. So when actually called upon, I think he's done well. It's just a shame we haven't been able to get him on the pitch as much as we would have liked.
Yeah, obviously, him being left out of Europa League squad has really hampered that. But he did save us against Coventry, and that we wouldn't be in the League Cup if it wasn't for him. So definitely gets positive marks for that. But as you say, it hasn't really featured too much, and that. Just from on an overall basis, and his attendance is low, I guess it's fair to say.
Yeah.
So I think, Spence is
unauthorised attendance is very low.
Not totally his fault, I guess. He, maybe ask his parents why he's not turning up for school. But I think he's been all right when he's played, but hasn't played too much.
Destiny Udogie up next. We're going to give him a C+. I feel like it's been a bit up and down from Destiny. He took a while to get into the season because he was on the way back from an injury. Once he got back into it, I thought the base level of his performance was really good. However, you have started to see these defensive frailties creep into his game. I feel like his one-on-one defending has been really poor this season, and that's culminated in quite a few of the goals that we have conceded. You look back to the Brighton game, which was a key example of that, and in and around that game, you did see a couple of times where he's been beaten one-on-one quite easily. So I want to see better from Destiny in terms of that aspect, but I felt like on a whole, his general level of performances has actually been quite good. Yeah,
I agree with that. And I think clearly when he's getting on the ball and he's striding forward, he's still such a force to be reckoned with. But he definitely seems to have a problem as much as Porro has a problem defending the back post. He's got a problem stopping those crosses in. And for every goal we can see the back post, it usually comes from a cross from his area. So we can all look at the back post and blame them for not marking their men, and they take blame for that. But Udogie has to take blame in the same case, because every time that cross is coming in and he's not being able to stop it, and it's causing us problems. So for one reason or another, that's a problem that he hasn't been able to sort so far this season. But as you say, he had injury problems at the beginning. You've got to cast your mind back at the beginning of the season. He was being eased into the season. He played, he was getting minutes here and there before he could get like 90 minutes. And then there was that middle period where he really thought, okay, he's back to his best. But since that Brighton game, he's just been struggling to really stop those crosses coming in.
Archie Gray up next, the 18-year-old that has played in pretty much every position apart from his own, which he calls a favourite: right back, left back, centre back. He's had stints in this season. We've given him a C+. I feel like he hasn't played much in the Premier League. Whenever he's stepped in for Europa League, I think he's been, fairly good level of performance. And what I've been impressed about from him in recent weeks is how he stepped in big games, away at Galatasaray in those kind of circumstances, at home to Man City in the Cup as well. And I think he stepped up to those occasions really well. So I want to see him get more game time, which you're probably going to see now with the bentancur suspension. But I think, it's been not like overly amazing, but it's been very good.
I think it's been a very promising start to his career. For an 18-year-old to play at the level that he has done, I think it's quite impressive. And obviously filling in at fullback, you got up against tricky wingers, up against very tough opposition. And I think he's acquitted himself really well considering the circumstances. Haven't been blown away, but when you saw the game against Man City, how he grew into that game, the composure he shows in tight spaces, really, really encouraging. So I think it's been an exciting start, but not overwhelmingly blown away in terms of, maybe it's just because of the position he's playing, but I think he's been pretty good.
Radu Dragusin up next, D+ for Radu. Up and down from Radu, obviously very much down in the recent performances against Galatasaray and against Ipswich. I thought it was dreadful in both those games. However, in the two games prior to that, against Man City and Aston Villa, I thought he showed a really good level. Gets down marks as well for the sending off after 7 minutes against Qarabag, which really put us under the cosh. However, we did get 3 points in that game. So it's been extremely up and down from Radu.
Yeah, and I think when he's been good, he's been really good, like against Villa and City, and as well when I thought at St James's Park he came in for Van de Ven and actually acquitted himself pretty well in that game. I was pretty happy with him. And then when he's been bad, he's been dreadful. I thought Coventry wasn't a good performance at all. I thought Qarabag sent off after 7 minutes. The games against Galatasaray and Ipswich really showed his frailties for what they are. And that's a big concern. So lots to improve, I think, for Radu, I think it's fair to say.
Mickey van der Ven. Van der Ven gets the first A mark of the report. Stellar student, Mickey van der Ven. He has had a couple of poor performances. The Brighton game springs to mind, and there was another game in there I can't remember off the top of my head, which game was it? Was it Palace? Yeah, it was the Palace game, which didn't perform too well in. But apart from that, I think he's been exemplary in terms of what he's shown this season. So Mickey van der Ven keeping up his standards. Just a couple of games lets him down.
Yeah, barely put a foot wrong. Probably there's those two performances stopping game getting an A+. But I think by and large this season carried on where he left off last season. So important to our back line. He's such a he's like a safety blanket for the whole back line for anything that goes in behind. And I just think he so consistently turns up for Spurs. And yeah, really, really great showing so far again for Van de Ven.
Cuti Romero, C- for Cuti. I think it's been a poor season so far by Cuti's standards. A lot of goals in the early parts of the season were due to him in terms of his defensive lapses in concentration. The last few games as well, he hasn't seemed to be up to his full fitness, and I think he's just not performing to the Cuti levels.
Yeah,
at all.
Something a bit off with him at the moment. To be fair, there's quite a few goals you can attribute directly to him this season, and that is not good enough when you're supposed to be a leader of the back line, one of the vice captains of the club. That is something he has to sort out very quickly. Otherwise, people are already getting on his back at the moment. When he is good, though, he has had some really good performances, so it's not been all bad. And clearly, on the ball, his passing range is still absolutely brilliant, and it's so important to our build-up play. But if he doesn't cut out these lapses in concentration, which is costing us goals at the moment, then at the end of the day, a lot of people are going to start getting on his back. And already people are questioning a few things of whether his head's in Madrid and all this kind of stuff. And, to silence that, you need to stop these lapses in concentration.
Ben Davies up next. He gets a B, which might surprise a few people. I think he's been really good whenever called upon this season. His first performance of the season was Coventry, and yeah, he did have a few defensive lapses in that game, but he also saved us in that game with the goal line clearance. Karabag, he played Ferencvaros, Alkmaar, 40 minutes against City, half an hour against Villa, and 90 minutes against Galatasaray. And I think for the most part, I think what I was most impressed about is the Villa and the Man City games where he stepped in, and we were all worried with him coming in those games, and he didn't look out of place. I thought he was brilliant, stood up to the challenge, stood up for the team. And look, he's been a great servant for Spurs over the course of the last 10 years. And this is probably his last season, and I think he's going out in style.
Yeah, Mr. Dependable, as Madison called him, and I think that's what he has been this season. Big moments he's had to really step up for us to make sure that we're getting big wins or keep us in cups, and he's done that. He's kept us ticking over in Europa League as well. He's just one of those players so far this season where when he stepped in, you just got no worries about him. And of course, we know he's upgradable when he's not being the best player, but I think by and large, I can't fault him.
Bissouma. He gets a B. Good mark for Bissouma, because I think this is probably, I know we haven't done this half-term report in a while, but it probably would have been his best grade in a Spurs shirt so far. And, you cast your mind back to the earlier part of the season when the balloon, all that balloon and laughing gas started happening. You're thinking, what is going on with Bissouma? What does the season hold for him? But credit to him, he's knuckled down. He's responded in the right way. He responded in the game after he got suspended by the club, and with a goal against Everton. And he scored 2 goals now this season, which is his first 2 goals in Spurs colours, which is unbelievable to think about. But I think whenever he's been called upon, for the most part, he's actually performed at a really good level this season. So, and it's a credit to him whether he comes in or Bentancur comes in, you don't really mind at this moment in time in the number 6 position, because they're both performing at a really good level.
Yeah, starting to hit those heights he got last season, being a lot more confident on the ball, using his press resistance ability to beat players, and obviously getting a few more opportunities in the final third. 2 great goals he scored against West Ham and against Everton this season. So credit to him. I think consistently he's been pretty good, but he's in competition with a very good Bentancur, which we'll talk about in a minute. So he's not been playing every game, but I think, he's been good.
And now it is Rodrigo Bentancur. He also gets a B. I feel like he's been really creeping into the season in a really big way. In the last few games, I feel like he's been our best player on the pitch. He got a goal to try and claw us back into that game against Ipswich. And if you're going to ask me, like, who do I prefer in that number 6, whether you're talking about Bentancur or Bissouma, I just think Bentancur, I feel a bit more safer with him as the number 6 probably. But like I said before, I don't really mind which one player. I think they're both performing at a really good level. But Bentancur, you're really starting to see get back to those levels of what we saw him a couple of years back.
Yeah, and I think it all started with a good performance at Leicester, and then he had that concussion, and then he came out of the team, and Bissouma came in. But they've had a really good battle for that number 6 position, and both of them are playing quite well, I think. Whether you think either of them are really suited to be that lone 6, or be our best defensive midfielder. It's a different question, but I think in terms of performing their capabilities, I think Bentancur's doing really well. And as you say, definitely signs of him getting back to his best. And on the ball, looks a lot more confident. He's looking like he's got that ability to cover a lot more ground than he did last season when I thought he was struggling with some fitness issues. And I think, again, really consistent, good level performance. Again, Brighton away wasn't a good one from him, but I think he's responded really well and obviously had some really good performances against City and against City and Villa, and also against Ipswich was our best player. So fair play to him.
James Maddison up next. He gets a C, unfortunately, which I don't think his level of performance has been bad this season. I don't think it's been as good as maybe what we maybe expect from James Maddison on a consistent basis. But to be fair to him, 3 goals, 3 assists so far this season, which is fairly good numbers for this stage. He has been taken out the team, though. He's lost his spot in the starting lineup to Pape Matar, which is going to be a big shame for him because, you know, he wasn't England international that he probably thinks he is, vice captain at the club, and you know he's been shafted, well, not shafted, but taken out the team for a youngster in Pape Matar, and Pape is deserving of the spot, and I think James Maddison is deserving of the spot on the bench at the moment. So Maddison needs to step it up if he's going to regain that spot in the team. And I like what he brings, but I still like when you see James, you still want more. You expect more because you know the levels that he's actually got. And when he joined Spurs, big money fee from Leicester, well, not that big, but we put a lot of kind of trust in James Maddison when bringing him over. He was in the England squad, and he must feel like, where's it gone wrong? Because he had that injury last season, never really kind of got back those levels of the first 10 games of the season, and now he's out the England squad. A host of pullouts in this international break. He still couldn't get into the England squad. So he must be scratching his head to think where it's all gone wrong. Yeah,
it's unfortunate for him. I thought he started the season really well, really strongly. And when you look at the facts, no one's got more goal contributions for Tottenham so far in the Premier League than Madison this season. So
level with Sonny, yeah.
Yeah, I still think he's doing well, and I still think he's performing well, and he's got good output. But at the moment, ever since that Brighton game, it just seems as though Ange has questioned whether we have the right balance with Madison in the team when he's partnered with Decky. And I think obviously Decky we can't really drop, and it just means who's the fall guy. And even though Madison's our vice captain, it just seems to be it's him at the moment. And I've got no doubt he'll find his way back in the team during the season. I don't think I'd remember too many bad games he's had this season. I think by and large he's actually been pretty good when he's been on the pitch. But I think it's more the balance of the team at the moment that Ange is questioning, and that's why he's out. The problem is, since he's been out, there's been rumours about him falling out with Ange and all these different things. And if that's true, then if he's causing problems, then that's got to be a concern. But hopefully that can be water under the bridge.
Yeah, let's hope so. Lucas Bergvall up next. We're going to give him a C-, and I was so excited for Lucas Bergvall coming into this season. I think we both gave our predictions as him to be our young player of the year this year. And when he first stepped into the team, in terms of the earlier stages of the season, his cameo at Leicester, when he came on against Everton, when he started the game against Coventry, I thought all these performances were really at a decent, a really good level. Since coming off against Qarabag in the early stages of the game, I feel like he's lost a bit of that creative spark that maybe that he's playing it a bit too safe, in my opinion, in certain, and where the Bergvall's got a lot of magic to him, and we need that kind of ingenuity to come out in him. And I think it did against AZ Alkmaar, but since the Qarabag game, I think the Alkmaar game is probably the only game where you can say he's had a good performance.
I think he's been good. I've been, considering he's come from the Swedish league, it's, different environment. It's a, completely different level of opposition. I think he's acclimatized actually fairly well. And as you say, his first few cameos really promising. I think his game against RZ really good. Coventry really good as well. And as you're going to get with 18-year-olds, sometimes, especially away at Galatasaray, it's a big occasion, and he definitely buckled under that, unfortunately, on that occasion. But it'll be a learning experience for him. I'm not expecting him to be incredible every minute of every game, especially when he's first coming to the club. So, for me, promising first few months of the club. I think he's shown exactly what he's capable of, and I think when he has a bad performance, he'll learn from it, and I think we'll see more from him as the season goes on.
Dejan Kulusevski, A+ for Decky. He's been our player of the season so far. He's been brilliant in more or less every game. Maybe there's one or two in there. Ipswich, he wasn't good. And there was another game off the top of my head. I can't remember which actual game it was that he didn't perform that well in this season. But by and large, he's been incredible. He's been our driving force. He's the only criticism I have for Decky is that I want to see him contribute to more goal contributions. It's 2 goals, 2 assists, which is not, on the bare face things, it's not the worst numbers, but someone of his quality and how well he's playing this season, I want to see more.
Yeah, and I think he said that himself. He wanted to get more goals and more assists and look more threatening. I think he has started to look more threatening as the season's gone on, but the last couple of games haven't been the best. But I think he's been unbelievably consistent this season, really stepped up in terms of becoming our best player so far this season. So impressive, so strong in the middle, brilliant drive with the ball, and he's got a brilliant left foot as well, and we know what he's capable of with the ball at his feet. So impressed with Decky in this new position. I think he's really found his home here, and yeah, I'm really excited to see what the rest of the season brings for him.
Yeah. Pape matar, B for Pape. I think, we were a bit worried for Pape, weren't we? Because he had a poor pre-season, took a while to find his feet in this season, but as soon as he did, he's been such an important part of the team for us. Goal contributions, he's really added this season in terms of all competitions. 2 assists in the Premier League, 2 goals and an assist, I think, in the Carabao Cup. 1 goal and 1 assist in the Carabao Cup, and a number of goals and assists in the Europa League. I think it's 2 and 2 or 2 and 1. So he's really starting to add that. He's the engine, the driving force in the middle of the park, and I think in recent weeks he's been so vital to us. So he's someone that's just been growing and growing into this season.
Yeah, brilliant stuff from Pape matar. Really, really delighted with him. And I think he's really come into the season when it looked like he'd lost his place to Madison at one point, and looked like he'd be struggling for him to get back in the team. But whenever he got his chances in Europa League and Carabao, he was, not allowing Ange to ignore him. And even though he had a difficult start to the season, he's really found his way back into the season. Now he's back in the first 11 and performing really, really well, and adding goal contributions from that midfield spot as much as he adds those legs. So absolutely fantastic from Sarr.
Mikey Moore, the star boy, up next. B+ for Mikey. Europa League has obviously been fantastic for him. 2 performances, one out in Ferencvaros where he started on the right-hand side. I thought he put in a good display, but that second half against Alkmaar, I think it blew everyone away of how good and how effective he actually was, beating players at will. He was just incredible that day. And the Premier League, I think, as expected, from a 17-year-old, hasn't really got to grips with Premier League action as of yet. Has only had 1 start against Crystal Palace. Obviously, it was a really bad day for the team. But, Mikey failed to really stamp his authority in that game, as he did in the Europa League games as well. So a few cameos in the Premier League, which we haven't seen much from, not many minutes there. But Europa League has been brilliant. Premier League, more to come.
Yeah, and look, the kid is 17. It's it's going to be difficult for him to make a major impact in what's probably the hardest league in the world. But what he's doing in Europa League shows what ability he has and what quality he has, and he can still make an impact even at this level. And it's been so impressive. The Ferencvaros and RZ game's been phenomenal, and I think he shows flashes of his quality when he comes off the bench as well. And I think for a 17-year-old to be making that kind of impact in Europa League games is phenomenal. So fantastic for him.
Brennan Johnson gets a B-. You cast your mind back to a month ago. He was on a scoring streak of 6 in a row, looking for his 7th, and things were looking really good for Brennan. And I think ever since that scoring run, performances have dipped a little bit. He's scored 1 goal in that time since to current date. What's going to be a massive frustration for Brennan is he hasn't got assist in the Premier League this season. He had 10 last season and failed to register 1 with 4 goals in the league. I think he's having a good season so far. There's no doubt about it. But he needs to show a bit of a base of a consistent performance level, which I don't think he's done so far yet.
Yeah, I think he'll be disappointed with that, because that was a big strength of his last season, those crosses along the floor and providing for the striker or the back post winger, and he hasn't quite done that so far this season. He's definitely getting in more goal scoring positions, and he's showing off his finishing ability a lot more, and I think he's impacting games a lot more than he was last season, and also I think helping out the team defensively a bit more than he was last season. But I also feel like doesn't get in those assist positions, maybe because he's not staying as wide potentially as he was last season, so he's not getting those opportunities to cross the ball and stuff like that. But I think by and large, he's been good. He's got good numbers. I just want, always want to keep improving.
Yeah. Wilson Odobert up next. We're going to give him a D, just because, he's come in and he's just been injury-ridden for pretty much his whole Spurs tenure so far. The games that he's played in, started against Everton, which, he was fairly dangerous in that game, started against Newcastle, and since then he hasn't started a game. So it's just been really frustrating, isn't it?
Yeah, it's been unfortunate. He's looked bright when he's played, but he hasn't had an ability to stay fit, and that's what's cost him probably a regular spot in the team. When we bought him, we threw him straight in. He looked bright, and he looked like this guy can, add a new dimension to our attack, but hasn't been able to stay fit, unfortunately, as much as he's looked bright. So that's the reality. Sick leave.
Yeah, sick leave. Sonny, B+ for Sonny. I think he's having a pretty good season so far out on the left-hand side. I still question whether, we are getting the best out of him with the positions that he's taken up on the pitch. But 3 goals, 3 assists. I feel like, leadership. I think he's really coming up trumps for the team more times than not. Has been hampered with injuries quite a bit over the last month or so. Hopefully after this international break's done, we can really get him on the pitch on a regular, because we're just a better team with him in it.
Definitely, and I think we look so much better when he's on our left-hand side for sure. He's still our best attacker, and he's still looking pretty good. I think since he's come back from that injury, which kept him out for about a month, he's looked a lot sharper, actually, and I think the break has done him well, and he's getting a lot more regular goal contributions. Got the goal against West Ham, got the assist against Villa. So I'm liking how he's looking so far this season. Even before the injury, he maybe didn't look his best, but he's still getting goals against Everton and getting good assists as well. So I think he's been good. I think he's still showing as our best winger, but it's all about keeping him at that level and that peak sharpness and avoiding injuries, and that's going to be the goal.
Dom Solanke, A- for Dom. Really good signing. I think he's fitted in so well in the group, in the system. His work rate is just phenomenal, isn't it? I haven't seen a striker like it, to be honest, at Tottenham. The amount he runs throughout a game, and he shows quality as well on the ball, I feel like is really understated. His passing ability, I think, is pretty good. Scored 6 goals in all competitions this season. So I think he's adding so much to the team and provides so much for the team. The only criticism I have on him is that on a lot of occasions he doesn't really get into those goal scoring positions, which he has been correcting over the last couple of weeks. So that's a step in the right direction, but I can't be happier with Dom.
Yeah, I think he's been brilliant. I think maybe the goal scoring record can improve, and I think it will improve given time. I think he will be getting lots of goals for Tottenham, but I think by and large, very impressive start, fitting into the team really, really impressively, like a glove. So good with his pressing, so good with his hold-up play. Has scored a few nice goals as well, and the more he gets to those positions, I'm sure the more we'll provide for him. You've got to remember, he's still new to the team. As much as he's been as much as he's been really good, it's still a new team, and that's still going to come with a few things to iron out. And once that does iron out, I'm sure he'll be getting bags of goals. So I'm really, really impressed with Dom.
Timo Werner, we have to make one up on the spot.
Probably a D.
Yeah, I would say so. There has been certain games where he's come on or started where he looks really threatening down that left-hand side, can beat his man, but it's just the same old Timo, isn't it? You know what you're going to get. You're going to get someone that's full of running, full of effort, but lacking quality.
Yeah, and that's what's happened. He's looked threatening in some games, but he's missed big chances, and a few times that's cost us. A few times it hasn't, and we've got away with it, but a few times, those big chances have meant we didn't win games of football and didn't score the goals we should have. And then as well, there have been times where he had looked absolutely dreadful. It's just clear for me, and I think clear for most people, that it's a player that we just need upgrading, and as much as he has his qualities, it's never going to be the kind of player to take us to the next level, and that's the reality at the moment.
Yeah. Richarlison as well, we're going to have to make one up on the spot. I would say probably a D+, something like that. D+, C-.
D, I think. He just can't stay fit. I mean, he's had good cameos, but apart from the 2 good cameos against Villa and against City, that's it really. Apart from that, it's not been able to get on the pitch.
It's been too poor, too good. because the game against Alkmaar and Crystal Palace, he was poor. And then the two latter games where, you know, you started to see him get back to full fitness and he bloody gets injured by making an assist. So very frustrating with Richarlison. So yeah, we'll give him a D.
Yeah.
And last but not least, Mr. Ange Postecoglou. Mr. Ange Postecoglou, we're going to give a C-. I have expected more from Ange and Spurs this season. I felt like up until the Brighton game, the performance level was actually really good. So I was happy with that in terms of even if we weren't getting the results, I could see, you know, what we're trying to do, and you could see that, you know, it's definitely working. But these worrying performances have crept in the past couple of weeks. You can't be losing to Ipswich. Crystal Palace away you can lose to, but with the form that they're on, we should have fully expected a win. And the second half capitulation at Brighton as well. You know, so there have been a few occasions where he's tried to change things and formations within game and it's gone horribly wrong. But there have been times as well where his substitutions have really swayed the game into our favour. So I think it's been very up and down from Ange this season.
Yeah, and unfortunately, as much as performances maybe you can argue have improved since last season, and we are maybe putting in better level of performances, results have really deserted him, especially in the last few weeks. And losing to Palace and Ipswich is really diabolical results. There's no getting around that, especially the manner in which we lost those games, and that has got to be a big concern. On the flip side, we're 3 points off third, as much as we are 10th in the table. We're 3 points off third, and we're going strong in the cup. So there's still a lot. We're still in a position where we can easily rescue this season if we can get some consistency. But the manner in which we lost the last couple of losses is very, very disappointing. And at the end of the game, it is results business. So as much as the performances, we can argue here, there and everywhere about performances, if we end the season in 10th, you know, having played really well, no one's going to remember that. Everyone's going to say you're 10th and he should go, and maybe they're not wrong. So Ange, definitely, I still like what I'm seeing from the team by and large. I still like the direction we're going, but he needs to make sure we just add this consistency, because when we're good, you can clearly see we're blowing away good teams and playing really well, but when we're bad, you know, we're losing to two teams that have been winless this season, and that can't continue to happen, because if it does, he'll be out of a job. So got to make sure we find that consistency, but I'm hopeful we will. So yeah, the reality is, whatever you want to say about the performances, in terms of wins to loss ratio, it's pretty much the same as what we've seen since after the first 10 games of the season last year, isn't it? 17 wins, 17 defeats, and now we're on 5 wins, 5 defeats. Mm-hmm. So it's very frustrating, very, very frustrating. But let's hope by the next time we give our report, there'll be a lot more better students when we talk about this. But that is your end of term report for the first quarter of the season. Let me know your grades in the comment section below. Like, subscribe, and comment. And as always, come on, Spurs.